Okay, let me share it for the screen. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So what we were discussing in our last session, it was I mean why we should need a different type of programming paradigm uh, when we are already aware of the procedure oriented programming and the use of C language, which is almost a very general type of language, and you can write anything and everything there, right from the low level coding to high level coding, implementing data structures, implementing large databases, everything. And in fact, many of the modern systems are actually written in C or C++. So these are basic things, but why should we need to go to some different, uh, say, kind of philosophy while we uh, design or model our problems and try to solve it? Or in other words, why we switch from procedure oriented approach to uh, object oriented approach. So we found that there are indeed some limitations of the previous approach where it puts a lot of emphasis on data, and in fact it never thinks of putting together or combining or binding the related the data with the related set of functions or procedures. That is one thing. Another is you have either the choice of making everything public or everything private, or everything that is within your control, or uh, I mean if you make things local, everything will be hidden from the outside world or other functions. So if a function f1 declares say two variables as local, so those variables cannot be accessed by other functions from outside, and if you really want to uh, use it, you have to pass arguments. So then it might be a lengthy list of arguments and it will increase the coupling. So that is another problem. We have already mentioned about cohesion and coupling, right? So those are the issues. So the thing is, instead of making just or having the option of just making things global or local, can we have more fine tuning over data? So these were the questions asked. And so instead of just having a top down approach that will think of a single large function, if it is too big, too complex, we divide into sub functions, and again one of them, if it is too difficult to write or too complex, too many steps are there, we can again subdivide, and that way the entire design goes in a top down fashion. So can we deviate from that way of thinking and do something that is more realistic in terms of the kind of problems that we are given with? So one example that we took was this case, that if I consider a campus type scenario and we have got different entities. So entities are things which we can distinguish, we can characterize separately, we can distinguish, we can quantify, we can differentiate, and all this. So anything can be an entity, and uh, it is up to you, up to the programmer to identify how many entities do you view or you define, or maybe the problem statement given, whether you give importance to that level of details and all this. So in this case, we found that maybe in our problem, we are interested with persons modeling, or storing the information of the persons who are involved or the stakeholders of institute, and then the vehicles that they actually use, either maybe two wheelers, four wheelers, or whatever. And we expect that everybody will be carrying phones, that may be a smartphone, that may be an ordinary phone, whatever. So maybe if these are the cases, then we found that because we are a programmer, so once we have identified that these entities need to be stored in a program, so the next thing comes is how you define that entity. So when I talk about definition of an entity, generally the entity has got say there are two modes through which you can define. One is what it is and what it can do. So the thing is it is means you try to basically characterize it. So what it is means you basically try to characterize that particular entity, and you also try to find out what it is capable of doing, so what it does. So it's kind, so you can say it's a, you are trying to define its behavior, or you can say capability. So these are very general terms, in fact anything. So if you talk about a phone, so phone you can say it can have a, as I mentioned, a phone number, a receiver, transmitter, its make. So everything, if you specify all these details, you can say that it's a Nokia phone of make of this year. It has having a SIM of this and all this, and it is capable of making a phone call, receiving call, and then sending messages, receiving messages, and all this. So uh, so this is how we can maybe I mean there are more finer details, but let us assume that for the given problem statement this is enough for a programmer to model a phone. Okay, so this is, if you specify that, uh, mm, that means you have specified a phone, you have at least modeled a phone. Same in case of a vehicle. So when you talk about a vehicle will generally have a registration number or a vehicle number in the number plate. It will have a certain number of wheels, and it will have its owner, who is the owner of that vehicle. It might have a characteristic color and also a make, the manufacturer. At the same time, a vehicle you can drive, you can park, you can, maybe you can hire if it is a public vehicle. So all these are possible. Okay, you can go for servicing and all this. So these are the characteristics. These are the few things through which you can characterize a vehicle, and these are the few things through which you can specify what a vehicle is capable of doing or what its behavior is. Now again, there can be a long list of these things which may or may not be important to you. So it depends on what type of problem, what exactly the problem you are trying to solve. So it may have multiple or 10-15 behaviors you have to need to define, or you may not. So that's the case. So in general we can say that for, so this is what, this is phone, and this phone, as you can see, so when I define a phone, I am not defining a particular specific phone's say features. Rather, when I'm talking about, so this is a definition of, so the definition of a phone means I'm trying to define the characteristics and behavior of all the phones that I see, right? So in that terms, so this is what I provide here is the definition of all phones that I have just now found in that particular figure. So definition of all phone means we can say this is definition of the class. So definition of a class of entities which are nothing but phones. So we have got some kind of similarity because all phones, they have got this similar, I mean they can be characterized with similar type of attributes, and they have got the similar behavior. That's why we say that all these individual phones, all those 6 or 8 phones, we say that these are similar class of entities. So that's why the term called I mean the terminology class comes. All are of same type, or all do bear the same definition. Same holds for the vehicle. So this, we can say this is the definition of the vehicle class. So we can say that this is the definition of the vehicle class. Okay, so the thing is, if I would like to specify a particular vehicle, say for example this one, in your program. So first of all, in your code, when you write a code or when you try to program it, so you should have some say features through which you can specify such definitions, right? uh, are you getting me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
So can you correlate what we just missed in C and what we require? I mean, from the real, so I'm not talking about anything C++, but can you see some demand that the C is immediately missing? So in C, so what are these? I mean, this vehicle number, wheel and all this. So these are either variables or some arrays or some data structures, like these are equivalent to that. So how you characterize it? So you define basically some variables, some data structures, which will uh, represent the attributes, right, of a particular class. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And what about these capabilities or behavior? So these are what in the programming terms, what are these?
Function.
These are equivalent
Attributes
to
and
functions,
methods.
subroutines, or whatever you say. It's that. So, and to define a class, and why do we call it as a class? Because this is a definition meant for uh, a large number of, maybe a large number of entities of similar type, and that's why you call them a class of entities having the same definition. So that's why the class. So the thing is, for defining a class you need some kind of construct in that particular language. So will C language do support this? Because you cannot include within that structure definition. When you write a structure, probably you can combine many of these, right? These can be combined, but you combine with along with them the methods or the functions together in a pure standard C structure?
No.
So that is completely missing. So can you see that? So there's a demand for something more beyond C, and that's why I'll come to that. So that is called C++, means something in addition to what C is providing, and so that we have this facility. So in C, if you would like to define a particular class of entities, the characteristics and the behavior of a class of entities, it is completely missing. So there should be some language which should be supporting it, so that we can identify the entities, find out common entities, similar entities, and would like to and we may define it, right? So this is missing there. Now if I come to this, you can see here, so this is a phone, so this is one class, so this is a phone class definition, this is a vehicle class definition. There can be another thing like so in this case, can you see that the accounts, so is the account entity visible anywhere in this figure? Bank account, is
No,
it
sir.
visible? Are those
No,
physical
sir.
entities a bank
No,
account?
sir. No,
No,
sir.
but still, because I have probably have tried to highlight the SBI, a bank here, so you might be thinking that maybe that because it is highlighted, you might be dealing with banks or the accounts, because students, they will have accounts from their for paying their those fees and all this. The staffs, they will have their accounts to get the salaries and all, so everybody will have an account, and maybe because of that, so there will be some entities which is not visible, but still which exist, and that also, that too is having some characteristics and behavior, right? So account is a kind of, you can say, it's a entity which we cannot see, but we know that that is important to define the scenario that we are talking here, right? A campus scenario. If you would like to model, uh, uh, whatever all the students, the staff, the faculty, and all this related to the particular institute. So here, if I talk about account, bank account, to be specific. So what can be the characteristics of a bank account? We can have
What
an
type of
account name,
account it is?
sorry, account number, and then a name. Name means what is this name meant for? The name, the user name, right? So the customer name to whom it is associated, and obviously any account will have some balance, maybe negative or positive balance, And sometimes these days accounts are also linked with Aadhaar cards, so it's like uh, UID or whatever, right? There are other QIC documents. So the thing is, when you say I'm trying to model a bank account, you have to specify through these attributes that this is a particular bank account should have this. And what things you can do in an account? You can get cash, you can deposit cash, you can just inquire for the balance, and all these details. You can get a account statement and all this. So these may be the behaviors associated with a bank account. Now, so these are very general statement. So this we can say that this is the definition. So this whole thing is the definition of a bank account, right? So this is the definition of the phone class, definition of the vehicle class. This is the definition of the bank account class. Now, what else we are left with to model? What we are left with?
Person.
What is another entity or another thing that we would like to model? Can you see the screen?
Persons.
What is
Person.
this? Person. Now, if I now, so I'm going one bit ahead, one step ahead each time. So now if I would like to define a person, so person, what do you think? How you define a person?
Name.
So again, a person class, the definition of the person class will have some characteristics, attributes, and some behavior, right? So what do you think? What a person will have? It can have many things, but what do you think? How can we define the characteristics of a person? Any person, student, staff, faculty, whatever.
Name, age, gender.
Then what else? Generally, everybody. I mean, you can assume that everybody will have some vehicles, right? Again, the students, they may not have. In our campus, it is. I mean, it is not recommended that you will have your own bikes. But again, I mean, if I ignore that, so any person will have some vehicles, either a two-wheeler or four-wheeler, whatever, right? And they will also have what?
Smartphones.
Phones. Let us call it as phones, right? And what else?
Bank accounts.
Bank account. Now, can you see that? So when you are trying to define some other class, okay, so you are trying to so when you are defining some of the entities, so some of the attributes are the entities whose definition you have already given. Like now this vehicle, now you know that vehicle is what? So it has got this definition. So this is vehicle, and this is phone. This is so. Can you see that how the design is going on? And then what a person can do? So if you write, say name is n, so just don't ignore the sequence, the syntax. N is the name, the variable. A is that age, V is the variable associated with the vehicle, G is for gender, P is for phone, and B is for, and A is for account, sorry, B is for bank account, right? So now what this person can do? He can definitely, deposit cash, right? So he can basically deposit cash with respect to what? With respect to this bank account B. So maybe this is a little bit of syntax, but then again, what I mean is the bank account associated with with a particular person, if it is B, so on that he can execute this behavior, deposit cash. If he's having a vehicle which is say identified by that V, or which is somehow associated with that this particular variable, say for example V, Then v dot, what it can do, it can drive. Okay, so in that way you can try, and then p dot make call. But it is not only that, he can do something else also. So a person can perform registration, or he can take admission if he's a student, then take class and all this, take a class if he's a faculty, like that. So it can go on. So can you see how the behaviors are defined here? And these are the characteristics. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
So in that way, see, so this is, so when I say there are six specific person entities, so these are this like P1, P2, P3, P4. So what they are called, so each of these, so this is the definition of the entire set of, so corresponding to all the persons, this is a general definition. But if I talk about this person P1 or this person P2 or this person say P3, all this, so what are these may be called? What may these be called? So if we call these as classes, so it is, so if they together is called a class, what are these called? So this is a class. So this is a class of persons, right? Because they have got similar behavior and characteristics. So what in each individual is called?
An instance of class.
So that is called object.
Entities.
So these are called objects, right? So what are objects then? So what we can write? What is an object?
Object is an instance of a class.
Okay. Instance, or I mean a specific entity belonging to that class. Is that fine?
Yes, sir.
So this is a more technical term. I will be using this. So you'll be using the terms class and objects, right? So it is something like when I write here, say int x, or say float f. What is this int? What is this int?
Data type.
It's a data type. It's a data type means, now you know that when you say it's a int type means you know that okay, it will occupy 4 bytes. It is capable, you can perform addition, subtraction, deletion and all this. So you will always, even though it is not explicit, but you are aware of it, that integers we can perform these kind of say behaviors, they are capable of performing. And how you specify that? So it will have some address where it is stored, it will have some value and all this, and then there are few things. If it is a floating point, you can have the level of precision also you can specify like that. So same in case of this. So if I would like to specify a particular person, say this P1 with respect to this person class, what do I need to write? I have to write probably, okay, let me write it in this color. So person P1, P2, P3. Got it? What is this person means? This is something equivalent to that data type. Okay. So instead of data type, now we know it has got a better term.
This was not funny. No, it is not.
Just wait for sir. Don't leave. Okay.